You're now live with Life and with Keish and Niche, and today's episode is called "Is Physical Intimacy a Need or Want in Relationships?"
Yes. So I feel like it's more of a. I mean, I guess it could be needed, but I think it depends on the relationship because I feel like it's more of a want. Like intimacy is important in a relationship, but it comes down to communication and how you and your partner communicate and how you are towards each other. Because for women, we're more mental than physical. Like if you don't have me mentally, then ain't nothing gonna really happen physically. So it's like if I'm stressed out and I got a million things on my mind, last thing I'm thinking about is being physically intimate. So I
Especially
think,
when you ain't behaving correctly.
yeah, so it's like it comes down to, I mean, whether you got kids or not, it still just comes down to how your partner reacts to you in general. Because like I said, for me, it's mental. So if I'm burnt out and you ain't doing what you need to do and you burning me out mentally and you stressing me out and disturbing my peace, I ain't gonna be ready for you mentally. That's the last thing I'm gonna be thinking about because I need you to get on track first.
But the thing about it is that men do not understand that intimacy is an all-day situation. It could be
Right.
an all-week situation. You gotta get that female or whatever partner that you had, you gotta get that right because it gotta be right. Because like Niche said, like if I'm mad at you, I don't know. I can't do no makeup sex. Like I don't even know how people can do that. I can't because mentally
Right.
I'm not prepared. But
Right.
intimacy leads to, the physical part of the intimacy, all day. Like you gotta send a little nice little text or something, give compliments, all of those things before you be getting up in the drawers.
Exactly. And like you were saying with Nick and Suckers, I never got the concept of it because like I could forgive you, but I still ain't forget what you did. So I still feel the type of way. And at the end of the
Exactly.
day, like I ain't over it yet. So yeah, I might have forgave you because I love you, but I may not still be over the situation to even want to be physical in that moment. Like for me, a true sorry is change behavior. I'm just telling you sorry and get flowers and stuff like change your behavior that made us in this, got us in the situation in the first place.
For
So
real.
we ain't gotta go through this again.
Because you got to think of your actions before you can, you do them.
Right, and it's
Because
always
it's
about considering the other person's feelings. Like if you already know that's
right.
gonna make your partner feel some type of way, don't do it. Don't do it, and then think that your partner supposed to just get over it because they love you, because they ain't always the case. Everybody
Nope.
deal with stuff differently.
You walk out right now.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like Niche said, it's about the communication. And
Yeah.
you have to have that type of thing if you want to be in this committed relationship, regardless if you girlfriend or boyfriend, you married, you've been married for years, months, whatever. You have to have some type of commitment and understanding. You can't just assume either that other person is going to think that way because everybody have their own feelings. But like Niche said,
Hmm.
if I'm in a situation where you make me mad, don't be acting like you gonna get the yams because the yams ain't coming out. They gonna be dry as hell.
Yes, and men also have to understand that. But naturally, we think different. Like we're more emotional, so
Yes.
yeah, you might get over it in a couple hours, or you over it the next day, but we ain't still over it. We still pondering on it. Like even
That's
if we
because
talking to you again or something, you still somewhere in the doghouse. Like
they started the problem in the first place. It's them
yeah,
that made it's them that made us mad in the first place. So that's why they be
yeah,
thinking like, oh, come on, babe, let me do this and let me do that. Like, no. Like you gotta understand it's consequences for your actions. You just can't do what you want to do and think you're supposed to be getting something because that's not it.
yeah. And don't be just doing stuff thinking I'm just want to just get over it right then, because you over it. Because again, we two
Right.
different people, bruh. Two different people.
Bruh.
So.
Killing me with the bruh.
Yeah, but yeah, look, that's a whole nother subject. But
Right.
I was gonna say something about that. That's a whole different subject. But yeah, like don't think that we supposed to just be over it. So that's why I feel like. I mean, I think it is important to have the physical intimacy, but I
Right.
think other forms of intimacy leads to the physical. Like we got to be intact in other ways before you get to the physical. Because, like
Absolutely.
again, my peace don't need to be disturbed. I don't need to be distracted. A lot going on, and like you said, with kids, if things need to be done with the kids and stuff, and you working too, and you trying to cook and you doing all this stuff, and you trying to handle business, you ain't thinking about the kids. So it's like at the end of the day, step up, dad, do some things, help out around the house, so that way that takes a little pressure off of mom and wife to be able to think about being intimate and, being the initiator if you feel like you're always the initiator as the male.
Right. And you know what? It is a bunch of understanding and commitment between a partner because yes, you do have these kids and sometimes you may not have the kids. But you have to learn how to put each other before them sometimes. Because I know like once, I became a mom, my kids was always there, like, and not saying like they always there, like they're gonna disappear, but it's like I'm always in my mommy mode, so I ain't really thinking about you. And even when you, you are pregnant after you have these kids, that's all your attention go to is the kids anyway. So sometimes these men or the next partner or the other partner, significant other, feel some type of way because all the attention is going towards the kids. But that's something that you have to think about and talk about beforehand. And if you're not ready to have those kids to interrupt that intimacy and that physical and mental intimacy, then, y'all need to discuss that beforehand because it's going to get interrupted. Definitely. But like Niche said, if you coming in and, the mom's always doing, 100,000 things and you only doing 2 of those 100,000 things, how can we give you something that you want physically if we burnt out from doing those 100 million things, So you
And
got to consider that.
listen, say it again because sometimes you can be burnt out. Like there's some days where I'm being touched on by the kids all day long. They want to hug me and stuff. And
Right.
don't get it twisted because I love my kids, but sometimes you be touched out by the end of the day. Like I don't even want you touching me because they've been touching me all day. They've been
Right.
calling me all day. So it's like now I
Oh
need a
my
break. Like
God.
leave me alone. I don't want
Yes.
to be talked to. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be nothing. Leave me alone.
Seriously, and that is the God's honest truth, especially because, I did do the breastfeeding thing and, I always had, my daughter on me. So it's like, you get tired of that. And then on top of that, when you are pregnant and you have those intimate moments with your body, because your body is changing. But I mean, like, you also have a baby inside of you. So they kicking and punching and doing whatever, karate kicks, all that type of stuff in you. So then by the time they come out and, you got, I guess, wait that 6 weeks, I don't waited more than that because, after all of that, physical contact, all that stuff, it be going out the window sometimes. And yes, and even like with clothes and all that stuff, like that's still physical contact. So like I just did not want to be touched at all. Like and sometimes like Niche said, your kids, they come in messing with you and all this type of stuff. You don't want to deal with it. You really don't. So
Yeah.
it does have a lot to do with like physical contact, because we're talking about physical intimacy, but sometimes you don't want to be doing all that. Just leave me the hell alone. Like I don't feel like it.
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to understanding, like your partner being understanding, because naturally a lot of stuff is put on us because we're moms, and it's just like the natural order of things. So there's
Yeah.
going to be times, but as long as you're communicating with your partner, like today is not the day, I ain't feeling it, and they could be understanding of that, then that leaves room for you to want to be more physical because they're being understanding and they're not punishing you or being mad at you or feeling some type of way because you're not in the mood at that time. But at the same token, it shouldn't only be when one person wants it, because there may, that's where it comes into, I guess, that balance. Like help out
Mhm.
more in the house and do things more, so there is that balance. So that way, you don't really feel like it's always one sided, because that can happen too. I think you feel like it's one sided where they're, like I said earlier, they're always the initiator and you're not really. But it comes down to that communication, and not even just communication, physically doing more and help out more around the house, and help out just in general, and that way you could free up that space and try to make that time, because sometimes it's hard to make the time. And when we're in mommy mode and we're thinking about a million different things, like right now I'm in the middle of trying to buy a house, so I'm being a mom, I'm working, I'm trying to, I'm talking to realtors and lenders,
Mhm.
and making appointments for this and that and stuff. And so that's the last thing I'm thinking about is the physical intimacy. So it happens, but it's about your partner being understanding of that, like realizing that you have a lot on your plate.
Right. And it also can go back to, it could be a reward. Okay, babe, you're doing so good. Come on, let me reward you. It don't always have to be like a thing like you have to do it, especially like, when you become from boyfriend and girlfriend into wife and hubby, it's not a guarantee that you still want to get all of that when you put a ring on it. Why do I have to change because you put a ring on it? I want you to be able to put this ring on my finger because you really mean it and that you really want to be with me and grow old with me and gray, and die together. I mean, we may not die together, but listen, at the end of the day, y'all get the point. But do it for the right reasons, not just because you think every night I'm supposed to be on a chandelier, because it ain't going down like that at all.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go into the expectation that just because you're married that I'm just supposed to roll over,
You
because
know what I'm
there's a
saying?
such thing as being raped in your marriage too. Just
Yes, it
because you're
is.
married doesn't mean that you can't be raped. Because if somebody
Correct.
says no, it's no. It doesn't mean just because I'm married that just because I said no, you're supposed to do it anyway. Like
Exactly.
it means no. Respect my boundaries. Respect my feelings and my space.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point because it does happen. And some people, they're afraid to speak out. And then even, when it comes down to help, they may not even do anything about it because they're not believing you just because you married. And that's not a good thing either.
Exactly. Exactly. But you also don't want to withhold physical intimacy as a punishment too, because then it becomes that's a form of abuse too. That's a form of, psychological and mental abuse on your partner. You're just withholding it because, like, I mean, it goes both ways. Because, yeah, I'm mad at you, so I may not want to be physical, but don't just use that as a tactic every time you're mad either.
Mm-hmm.
Or as a manipulation tactic over your partner to withhold
Well,
it.
so for me, I do that, but I don't do it as far as, a mental abuse and things like that. That's why I was talking about the communication, and we talking about, like, doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. So if that's not being met and I'm doing, 50 million things to your one, no, you're not. I don't feel that's where it comes in, where I don't feel like doing what you want me to do because you're not doing what you're doing. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's how I do. I don't do it through, due to a mental thing. It's because I don't feel like doing it. Like, I literally don't feel like doing it.
Right. And I agree with that because for me and on me, most of the time it's just because I don't feel like doing it. But I could be mad too and just not feel like doing it. But it's hard because, like you said, as women, we're emotional. So if we're not in that space, in that head space or in that emotional space, we're not going to want to do it. It's not something that you can force someone to do when it comes to us, because you just be doing it just for you and then it's not enjoyable. Like I need to,
Exactly.
yeah,
Both
it
you
needs to
do
be
both
enjoyable for
need.
both.
Correct.
Right.
That is true. And I do 100% agree with that. But like I was saying, you can't have me if I can't have full of you. And that's not even talking about the physical part of it. That's talking about, your roles in this relationship. I do feel like it is a reward, and I do feel like, it can be a need and a want at the same time. You want it, you don't really need it. You may need it to release some stress or whatever you got to do. You want to feel intimate with your partner, but do you really need it? That's the question. Like, do people really need to do the thing? And I don't think you need it. To me. And it is about discipline too, because it goes back to that Steve Harvey thing where he said work, you like on a job, you working 9 to 5, but you newly, into the company or whatever. You got to wait that 90 days to be able to, get those benefits. Well, we passed those 90 days because now we have kids, we're married, we're doing all of this type of stuff, but that doesn't mean that you cannot be practicing celibacy. You know what I'm saying? If you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So for me, I have discipline. And I think when a woman has discipline, it also allows the man on the other side to have discipline, but also think of other things to do, to not just be physically attached in the intimacy setting, because there are a bunch of things you can do. You don't always have to be physical. You don't always have to be on a chandelier. You can find things to do, play games, do stuff. You can play basketball and be touchy-feely that way. I don't know, maybe like loving basketball. Who knows?
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Maybe get touched wrong way in the foul or something. It turn you on. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
you could do other things, and I feel like too, when you do practice those being a celibate in relationship, or even just, taking the back, you're taking a back step from that part of the relationship. It gets to know who you are as a person. It gets you to know your spouse as a person, because you're not just worrying about the intimacy, the physical part of it. You're actually trying to, know the inside out, know, what goes on in their brain, so that maybe you can learn those things to practice those things into, getting down to the nitty gritty of what you want. It's all about learning your partner, what they want, what you don't want, all of those things. So I do think it's a combination. And that's why it's another important thing to know, the love languages, how to deal with your partner with those 5 love languages, so that way it can lead up to that part of it.
And that's so true, because just like you said, yeah, learning those, your partner's love language is definitely important, so that we could lead, like you said, because there's so many different ways, like you just said, just touching back on it, that you could do without being physical. And I think that's why, for us women, you see so many, like Maya, the singer Maya, was just talking about how she was celibate for 7 years. And it's so easy for women to be celibate because, social media and society makes it, because that's all you see on social media is, is TNA, TNA, and they half naked and all that stuff. So because everything is so overly sexualized, they think that, that's how it's supposed to be, and you're supposed to just get it all the time. And there's a lot of women out here that aren't doing anything, that are celibate, because they want to have a better spiritual connection with themselves. They're maybe career focused, or driven, or they just want the peace. They don't want, all those different spirits invading, they sacred space. So, and come with all that drama, because when you're having, that stuff go up into you from all these different partners and stuff, that stuff stays with you. That's a spiritual thing. And if you hold other people's emotions and their traits and stuff, because you're injecting their DNA into your body.
And that's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, and so that's why a lot of times, for us women, we're the ones having things inserted inside of us. So for us, it's easier for us to be intimate and to, abstain, not be abstinent and be celibate and abstain from being physical. It's easy, and people be like, well, how can you do that? But men do it too, because there is a such thing as semen retention. And and practicing that, and having control, and having discipline, and focusing on other things, and it has spiritual benefits to it too, on the men's side. Correct. So I think it's like you said, it comes all down to discipline and control, and it's not something that you just need to have all day every day. Like, that shouldn't be your focus. Your focus: travel, experience life, like start a hobby that's positive. There's so many things that you could do to not be focused on just that, because that's not the end all be all of the world. Technically,
it's a bonus.
You're only supposed to do it to procreate. If you want to get technical, you're only supposed to have physical relations to procreate. So if you're not creating a life, you don't really need to be doing it. But it's still a part of, if you're in a relationship and you're married, it's still an important part of it. But again, it can be a need, but I feel like it's more of a want. It's more, because for me, yes, it relieves stress, but I have other things that I could do to relieve stress. I don't need that.
That's what I'm saying.
I can do other things that relieve my stress. So, like, for me, it would be a want. It's not really something I absolutely need to have or need to do.
Because then when it comes down to it, if it's a need that you need it all the time, then now you got a problem once you've been, an addict. And, so it's not a win-win situation, either way, because if you need it all the time, you got a problem. If you don't have it all the time, I guess they say you got a problem too. Like, you are you this or you that, and you got to figure out what your sexuality is. I don't think, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you come in contact with somebody and they ask you, and if you're willing to provide that answer, then they look at you like, what's wrong with you? Like, you cool, So then, like, it's a game, really, either you this, you that. You always gotta tell somebody what you're doing, who you are. And that's another thing. without having it, you can still experience some deep things within yourself, and knowing who you are and going through that spirituality that Niche was saying and mentioned earlier. Because you getting to know who you are, who you once were before you even got into that. So like I said before, for me, it's a want. It's not a need, because I don't need anything. I think anything in life it's a want. It's not a need. Now, I mean, you need water to wash up, but this ain't this ain't that. So,
Listen, your needs is you need water to keep yourself hydrated, you need food, you need clothes, so you ain't even, you need shelter. Those are the needs. I mean,
right,
everything else is, a
it's a
want, or
want.
you need money so that way you can sustain these things, but everything else is really a want.
It's a desire,
It's a
right?
desire, right?
So,
So, yeah, so that's why it just comes down to knowing your partner and just, like you said, it can, if you withhold it, it can create resentment in your relationship, in your marriage. And if it's too much of it, that could be a bad thing too. So, it's all about moderation and knowing your partner.
yeah, I heard
Mhm.
it was this is how I had got it from someone before, and it was like you know you give them a little and then you take it back. So you kind of like you kind of like reminding them what it could be, but then if they ain't doing what they supposed to do, you can take it back. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I mean, to each his own. But for me, I just cut it all the way off, because just that's just me. Just cut things off. So I mean, I have to be physical, but I just, I cut people off. I cut that off, and if it ain't right, I just leave it alone. So that's just how I just deal with life. So but other people, not like me. So, and that's fine too.
Exactly. And that's why, it comes down to each his own. But like you say, you know yourself. So, like if you ain't in it, but that's like I said, that's for most women. If we're not in it mentally, we're not going to be in it physically because
Yeah.
we're
Oh yeah.
emotional and we're
So
more, we more in our head than our body.
right,
So,
and we
yeah,
actually was talking about the makeup part of it. I don't understand it. How people can, if you're mentally not there, how could you physically, go through with like makeup? I can never get into the makeup part of it, because I'm still thinking about what was said and done in that situation, and I'm not over yet.
exactly. And especially if it's something that's been done before and is being done again, like, I'm really not trying to handle makeup. What am I making up for? So you can turn around and do it again in a couple months, another year or
Right.
two? Like, what are we making up, having makeup sex for? Like,
I don't even think Nisha's gonna go to the month. I think it's gonna be the next day, to be honest.
I'm
Because
saying it depends on what it is. That's depending on what
yeah,
is it, what happened and what transpired. But that's
yeah,
what I'm
that's
saying. Like,
true.
if it's something that's a repeated behavior that keeps getting you to this point, like there is no makeup for me because I know what's changing. Like for me, change behavior. That's your sorry. That's where the
Correct.
makeup.
And I
Not
totally
you doing the
agree with
same
that.
thing again.
And I always say, like, that 5-letter word, sorry, is just a word, you just saying it. And or do you mean it? Because if you really do mean it, then you would definitely change your behavior and change your ways to make it better. Don't repeat the same thing you done did, yesterday to today, or even if you do it, 2 days from now, you're not sorry then. Because your
Exactly.
behavior is still the same. It's just you just manipulating the situation so you can get what you want and still continue to be who you are as a person. Because they continue to show you, you just either ignore it or you just don't care about it, and then or you feed into it.
So true. And like you said, look, you hit that right on the head. Like, don't manipulate just to get what you want and then still do the same thing again. Because then I'm looking at you all kinds of sideways. And then you, like, if I didn't already said something, you still doing it, but you expecting me to just accept it and just be like, no, change up what you're doing so that way we can get to back to where we need to get to. If you want something from me, it's called about give and take. You want something from me, you got to give so I can give. Like,
Right. And don't let it be all just on one person either. You have to come together. You're in a relationship.
hmm
That's two people or more, depending on what kind of, thing you're doing. But,
hmm
you have relationships with everybody. Every single person you come in contact with, whether it's a day or two, one day or whatever, maybe I don't call them relationships, but some people do. Who knows? Some
Mhm.
people even get married in 30 days or even 2 days after. Who knows?
Mhm.
Whatever you got to do. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's still a relationship. You still have to communicate, talk it out,
Mhm.
figure out what you're doing. You got to have a plan. Some people don't have plans. I'm a planner. I always got to plan things. Sometimes my plans don't go out as I assume it to be. But at the end of the day, I work hard to that goal. And that's what you have to do.
Right.
And that's what the relationship is. You have to work hard for a goal that you're trying to accomplish. And if you want everybody to be satisfied around the table, you know, and that's talking about, your kids, your husband, whoever you got in contact with in order to have that husband and wife or whatever your significant partner is to have that intimate situation at the end of the day as far as coming together, so and coming in contact and having that time spent together. So
Yes, and since we're talking about the physical intimacy in relationships, sometimes that can get in the way. Because
right,
sometimes if you're intimate physically with them too soon, it may be red flags that you ignore because the sex is so good. But that person ain't meant for you, and that person ain't no good for you, and they dogging you out and treating you like whatever. But because y'all been intimate and you're physically attracted and spiritually attracted to them now because y'all done mixed juices, like it's sometimes it'd be hard to walk away. So I think that's why the physical intimacy should always come last and get to know your person first to make sure that's the person for you. Because you could be blinded by all that physical and not even realize that your peace and everything is being you deteriorating. Like you don't
right,
even realize it because you're so hooked on that physical.
right. So yes, so if anything, if you learn anything from this, to take away from our episode tonight, as far as the physical intimacy, just learn yourself, learn your partner. That way, you both can get what you want out the deal. Speak about it, talk about it, make sure you communicate, because if that's something important in your relationship that you need or want or even desire, or is that your goal, your reaching goal, you can get there. You just have to plan it out, and you may have to plan it out because with these kids, you may definitely have to plan it out. You have the little ones, but
Exactly. Yeah, my husband, look, he be calling them sea breezy cock blockers. But he call them sea breezy all the time. Like, cause they'll do it every chance they get.
right, and they do be knowing. They do know when that time is coming. So, just have that communication, and you know, do whatever you need to do in order to have what you want. That's all I'm trying to say. If you got to take all morning to get to the yams at the nighttime, then listen, fellas, do it.
Because at the end of
Do
the day, it's not even about happy spouse. I mean, happy, wife, happy house or whatever. It's about happy house, happy spouse, or happy
right,
spouse, happy house, how you say it. So it's about both of you being equally happy and doing things for each other to make each other happy. So that's why the communication is important because,
correct,
their feelings are valid too. Even though we're kind of talking more so about from a woman's perspective because we're women, but at the end of the day, their feelings are important and their feelings are valued and their needs and wants, are valid too because they married you or they're in a relationship with you. And that's who they chose. So
right,
definitely keep that communication open, to learn your needs and wants from your partner and learn each other so that way y'all can make it.
yes, and yes. We just gonna leave the other part that I was gonna say for another time because we're gonna touch based on that part later. So, but yes, we definitely need to communicate more, keep it open, and that way you both win. It could be a win-win situation. So that's all we have for tonight. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We're gonna come hard or go home, and let us know how y'all feel about it. Make sure y'all comment and make sure y'all message us and let us know at lifeinakeisha@hotmail or gmail.com, and our social medias. Hit us up with a
Hmm.
comment, question. We'll definitely chit chat on there. We're going to do some live soon. So just be
Yeah.
tuning in, and you never know what will come next.
Yes, and just like Keisha said, definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Life and with Keisha Niche. And, follow us, interact with us. And like she said, send us questions to our emails. We have no problem with answering and giving our honest feedback on any situations or questions y'all may have.
Yes, because we could be your therapist, okay? Y'all got something y'all going through, let us know so we can help y'all out. Now, we're gonna come with honestly. So, um,
Exactly.
you know, just take it how you want it. We're gonna try to give you the best advice that you can either take or leave, but we're definitely going to be open and honest about it. Me and Niche always the opposite anyway, because she's definitely my husband, seeing both sides of the story. I'm like, this is it. This is how I'm going to be, and that's it. I'm gonna come cut dry, no cut cutters. So, but Niche, she's the more rational one, but you can get both point of view. So. That's why I'm saying, like, we're not the same person. We may agree, but we do disagree. And y'all know that by listening
Hmm.
to our podcast. And if you haven't, this is your first time listening to it, go back and listen to the other episodes that we got going on, so y'all can
Exactly.
kind of know, get some more advice, but also get to know us a little bit better. And y'all know, even if you want to, you be like, you know what, this question is for Niche, this question is for Keish, and we can do it
Right.
that way as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's no
Definitely.
problems with that either. So, yeah,
Exactly.
definitely hit us up.
Because one can relate and the other may not relate. So it's always going to be
Exactly.
like that in life. It's life. We don't have no
Hmm.
hard feelings with that. So,
Hmm.
anyways, thank y'all again for our Life in the Quiche fans out there. Thank y'all for your support, and y'all have a good one. See y'all.
See ya.